Welcome to Never Again is Now, a podcast about anti-Semitism. I am Evelyn Marcus, and in addition to being a psychologist, I'm featured in the documentary about anti-Semitism, Never Again is Now. I'm a Dutch Jew and the daughter of Holocaust survivors. In 2006, I immigrated to the United States because of the rising anti-Semitism in Europe.
I am Phyllis Sembler Miller, the founder of the free nonfiction Holocaust theater project, TheEdgeTheWedge.com. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest where I was the only Jewish child in all my public school classes, although there was a synagogue in the town. My grandparents had come the century before, running from the Tsar. And in 1970, only 25 years after the end of World War II, my US Army officer husband and I were stationed in Munich, Germany, an experience that changed our lives forever.
Today, we are thrilled to have a guest from Latvia, a country in Eastern Europe. Rabbi Shimon Kutnovsky-Liak was born and raised in Israel in a traditional Zionist family from the Soviet Union. He has a college degree in international relations and Judaism. And since 2006, he has lived and worked with Jewish communities in the United States and Russia. In 2018, he moved to Latvia to rebuild the Jewish community in Jurmala, a beach town near Latvia's capital, Riga. Rabbi Shimon Kutnovsky-Liak is the chairman of this community and a board member of the Council of Jewish Communities of Latvia. Rabbi Shimon, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning to you. Good evening here.
Yeah, good evening to you. And Phyllis, please watch your sound. You have a bit weak volume. Rabbi Shimon, I will ask you our first question.
Sure.
You made a big step moving from Israel, I think, to Latvia in 2018. Is that correct?
Okay, so actually I was moving from Moscow. I was, well, a few years in the States, 2006 till 2009, then to Moscow. And in Moscow, almost 10 years. I mean, I met there my wife, my firstborn, born in Moscow, and from Moscow to Latvia to Jurmala, we moved, that's correct, August 2018.
And why did you decide to do that? What motivated you to move to Latvia?
That's actually a good question. As we actually were on our way back to Israel. My wife really wanted it. I wanted it. And coming to one of my rabbis, Rabbi Pinchas Goldschmidt, which is the chief rabbi of Moscow, which is the head of the CER, the Conference of European Rabbis. And I told him, listen, Rabbi, can you give me a letter of recommendation, Israel, and so on and so forth? He said, sure, but you know, we have a conference for young rabbis of Europe. Please be my guest. This time it will be in Riga. And so it happened, we flew together the same airplane, and on the way he tells me, listen, I know you have roots from Latvia, and there's a private person going to open a synagogue in his house in a town that didn't have a synagogue since the destruction of 41. And would you like to take the challenge? And for me, it was like to close kind of a ring or a journey for my family that came from here. And I spoke with my wife, she said yes. And then I called another of my rabbis, Latvia Rabbi Shimon. And he said, listen, such a project, it's met mitzvah. Met mitzvah in Hebrew, it means somebody who died. And to take care of him will be a mitzvah, will be a good deed. Why? Because it's someone who do not have anyone to take care of him or her. No family, no friends, nobody. The body is just lying there. And it's a big mercy. It's a big act of caring and go out of yourself to take care of this body. And when Rabbi Sheki told me that going to such a place to rebuild a community, to basically to do just that, and thank God my kids didn't need to go to school yet, so me and my wife, we accept the challenge and we went for it. So
that's a beautiful motivation, I would say. Rabbi Shimon, we know that Latvia is a member of the European Union, along with the other two Baltic states, Estonia and Lithuania. What is the population of Latvia today, and how many Jews are there?
It's a very good question. How many people you will ask, this is how many opinions you will have. But official numbers talking about approximately 1,900,000 people, approximately. Out of those also, how many Jews? It's a big question. And if we talk before the war, about 75,000. So today in our time, official numbers talking about 7,500 Jews all over Latvia. Most of them, the big majority in Riga. I mean, different cities like Rezekne, where's my family from, where they had a huge number of synagogues before the war. Today you have maybe 4 or 5 Jews, that's it. So just to understand the capacity. So about 7,500 Jews. The Joint will say that you have about 15,000 people who can get Israeli passport by the law of getting back to Israel, even if they're not Jews by halacha, by the law of Judaism. So those are the numbers.
Thank you.
Now, I'm trying to talk as loud as possible. Can you tell us briefly the history of Latvia during World War II? When did the Russians invade after the Nazis invaded Poland? And then when the Nazis came in, your paternal grandfather and grandmother were deported to Siberia from Riga by the Russians, which in my reading probably saved their lives. When the Nazis invaded Latvia, they established the Riga ghettos and massacred thousands of Jews. And I will just say that my mother's family comes from the shtetl of Bishki in Latvia, and their name was Jewish. Anyone in the village was massacred, but 2 of the family, teenage girls, were working in Riga at the time. They were not deported to Siberia, and when the Nazis invaded, they were saved only because the Russians warned everyone to flee east. Now, your turn to share your family history.
Okay, so Latvia, Latvia was very young as a country when the Second World War started, just a few years basically. And if in the beginning it was actually very, very nice democracy, it became less and less a democracy as time went on. But even though under Karlis Ulmanis, even the beginning of the war, even though that it was less and less a democracy, still he let Jews come in, he gave them passports. So you had a very big Jewish influence. In Latvia, you had 2 or even 3 parties, Jewish parties here, from the different kind. So you have the Orthodox Jews, and you have the communist Jews, and you have a lot of Jewish life here. And basically, when Molotov-Ribbentrop was signed, war, you can say, came to this place, and the official date is the 17th of June, 1940. It's when the Soviet Union invaded the Baltic states, basically the same day. Our here, our there, but basically the same. Estonia and Latvia, and of course Lithuania. So, and just a few weeks after that, the NKVD started working here, killing people, deportate people, Jews and non-Jews, as as the Soviet Union used to do. Just before the Nazis came here on the 23rd of June 41. Okay, it's about 1 year after the Soviets came here. But most of the deportations that the Soviet Union did, it was like weeks, days, if not weeks, before the Nazis came in. So most of those who got deported, they actually lived during this year here in Latvia, and occupied Latvia under the Soviet Union. Of course, again, you had arrests and so on, but the big majority of people that got sent, we're talking about approximately 15,000 people. Jews, of course, you have non-Jews that were sent away. Some to Krasnodarsky Krai in Russia, some to different parts of Siberia, and the young men to Ural to do the hard work, labor work, the families to Krasnodarsky Krai and Siberia in different places. There already they also got their private hell, because even those who got to cities fast have been taken away to camps and the whole thing there. And the Nazis came, and that's it. I mean, collaborators helped them help them here. Some of them were waiting for the Nazis, and the Nazis came, used destruction starting from if you know a little bit Latvia, from Liepāja, and from that direction inside to the land, killing all over. Already, it says that in the first day of invasion, they already gathered groups of Jews and killed them. So this is the beginning of the war for Latvia. Personally, my family also was one of those who got deported. Well, family with means and money and real estate. So you can say, thank God that the Soviets had interest to take from their wealth. They got sent days, maybe weeks, maybe days before the Nazis came in. My grandmother was already pregnant with my father. As she used to say, that they didn't even let her to take the coat for the next winter that they're going to come. They need to go with empty-handed. My father born 3 months after that. So my father, his father, my grandmother, my grandpa, and his brother are from Rezekne, from a scholar Jewish family, very Zion and Zionut and going to all the way, not religious at all, even though that in the house you could find the whole Talmud, and if you open it, you have the markers inside, so they know it, but they're not religious at all. I have actually a picture of my grandparents with Ben Gurion and the whole shebang, right? It's this those guys that are going to Palestine to create Israel. The brother of my grandfather in the 30s already went to Palestine to build Israel, and then he was fighting the Nazis with the Jewish Brigade. My grandfather and of course his family didn't get there on time, and during the war, it's Siberia. My grandmother was a psychologist who worked in the old city of Riga, so probably it's also a thing that saved them there, because you always need a doctor. So so the Soviet Union, this is what they did. I mean, if you have a profession that we need, so we'll put you in a normal place. Otherwise, yeah.
Okay, we have to move forward to get to anti-Semitism today. I just want to say at the end, we're going to mention many people do not know about the Nazis setting up the Riga ghetto and the murdering of Jews in the forest.
More than that, I'm sorry, the Nazis actually, they killed in 2 days about 25,000 Jews locally, and they did it so well. I mean, they did it in order to have space in the Riga ghetto to the newcomers from west of Europe.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. It was called the Jurmala massacre. Probably my pronunciation isn't right.
Jurmala, yeah, Jurmala, yeah.
And so lots of people don't know that German Jews who were rounded up in Berlin were sent to the Riga ghetto before they were murdered. So we're going to give a link at the end of this about the Riga Museum so people can learn more about that part of Latvia. But now we get to Evelyn's specialty, which is anti-Semitism today. We want to know whether Jews can live as Jews today in Latvia, that part of dealing with life in Latvia. It's your question. Did I get that?
Okay, it says phyllis, but I'll ask the question. Rabbi Shimon, can you tell our listeners about anti-Semitism now in Latvia?
So thank God we are in a very quiet space. And if in Europe, mainly you have three heads to anti-Semitism, which is the ultra-right, and then you have the ultra-left that are anti-Israel governments, and then you have also the hate that comes from some parts of Muslim culture and space. Here you don't have it. So here, basically, if you have anti-Semitism, it's basically from the right, the ultra-right, and you probably will see it only in the internet. You will not see it physically. I mean, you can have somewhere suddenly you will see a flag of you know, with the Nazi symbol, but it's really rare. You don't see it. It's more inside. Also from the left side, only now when you had the Shomer HaChomot, the military action of Israel in Gaza, the last one. So suddenly a professor gave an interview about Israel, and first time you actually see that there's a person that is anti-Israel, but otherwise you don't see it. You don't really feel it. I mean, I walk with my kippah on my head, with my yarmulke. This is how I walk, and so far so good. You probably have it, but for that you will need to go to a place that people will drink, or you know, like in somewhere in the forest, you know. So thank God for that. The last time that something happened, that somebody sent a letter to the Jewish communities here, it was maybe a year and a half ago. Not so. So in that matter, this is actually a quiet place to be for now.
That's great to hear. I looked at it before our interview. I looked at the Anti-Defamation League's global monitor of anti-Semitism, and it tells you how many percent of the population holds anti-Semitic attitudes, and from what I saw in Latvia, it's much lower than in Poland, for instance.
For sure.
It's about similar to Russia, they say, and it's higher than in the United States, for instance.
Yeah, you have here the population here. It's about 40% Russian, so that will make sense. Yeah. And the Latvians usually are people who keep to themselves. I mean, don't touch me, I don't touch you. You know, it's like, yeah, I prefer my house with my fence, and that's it. So again, if the person didn't drink or is not on drugs, probably you will not even know. And it's not public. It's not public.
Yeah. I recognize that from my country of origin, Holland, where when I grew up, I hardly heard anti-Semitic remarks, just now and then. But what's going on in people's heads is, you know, you get subtle signs, but you can very well live with it as a Jew. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about religion? Poland is predominantly Catholic at the time of World War II. And we know that the church is
it's still very Catholic. Yeah.
And we know the churches, although they're trying to improve their image towards Jews. But what's the predominant religion in Latvia? Does that have something to do with it?
So the official religion here, I mean, they will try to say Lutherans or Catholics, but the most visited church is actually the Russian Orthodox Church.
That's what I
Still,
thought.
the most people are there, but still, you have the main ones. Of course, it's Lutheran and Catholic, and actually Jews. I mean, we are also as official religion. Actually, Islam here it's on a different status. So they have even less ability to build stuff or to do stuff. And those who came from different countries, they never stay here because the country is not rich and you don't get here what you can get in Sweden or in Germany. So nobody wants to stay. So even if they came in, they want to go further. So in that way, yeah.
So you're saying that immigration, it's kind of just a pass-through country.
Yeah.
Other than
And the Jewish community has a good connection with the different churches and also with the Islamic community here. I mean, before the Corona, for example, the Israeli embassy used to, in Eid al-Fitr, one of the holidays, the Islamic holidays, used to do like a welcome to the Muslim communities. I have also a connection with some of the communities, and we talk about philosophical stuff. We don't even touch the religious differences, and that's really good. That's really good. That's really good connection.
So the Jewish communities, Jewish communities in Latvia don't really have to deal with anti-Semitism the way Jewish communities.
Thank God, no. Thank God, no. You still prefer to have guards in the doors. I mean, but the biggest attack that was here, it was in '95, when a Molotov bottle was thrown on the synagogue. In the past years, you don't really see physical attacks or attempts. Thank God, and the government is supportive to the Jewish community. We do need to be out of the war, so it's a challenge. And but otherwise, anti-Semitism, as you can see in Germany, in France, in Belgium, unfortunately now in the States, even in Australia and in the fellow Semitic places, thank God here it didn't get here. Yeah.
Evelyn, do you want to ask a question? And then I just want to know whether Holocaust education is mandated in Latvia public schools.
No, go on, Phyllis.
Could you answer that, Rabbi Shimon? Because that's very interesting.
So you have studies. I never got into the official studies, but for example, I think it was 2 years ago in the Jurmala forest during the Memorial Day. So kids out of different schools, not Jewish schools, came to be there. So they do study it. How much exactly, I really don't know, and I'm sorry, I didn't check it out.
That's okay.
But there are different movements and projects that the Jewish community here is doing in order to educate opinion makers and to let people know what really happened. So there is work that the Jewish communities and officials out of the communities are doing. That's for sure. Yes.
Evelyn?
I mean, for example, Jurmala. So it goes on national TV. The president is talking there, and the prime minister is talking there, and official governments and ambassadors of different countries. So it's a big thing that happens in the Jurmala forest, and then during the day of burning the main synagogue in Riga, the Choral Synagogue. So you have those events that officials are part of it. One day of the year, they will take the flag down as a memorial, or like. So you have it. You do have it. Yes.
Evelyn, did
Maybe
you
not enough, but you have it. Yes.
There.
Evelyn is frozen. Am I frozen? If I'm not frozen.
No.
Okay, let me ask a question, which is from your experience, not just in Latvia, but in the US and in Russia, are there things that you can tell our listeners as individuals what they can say to, without putting themselves in physical danger? They can say when people say anti-Semitic things to them or in front of them.
Well, as my teacher, Rabbi Sherky, would say, sometimes you need to know how to pray. Sometimes you need to know how to defend yourself. In that sense, Jiu-Jitsu or Krav Maga would be very helpful. And that's true. You need to know to handle yourself. Unfortunately, this is the reality that we live in, and this is the world that we live in. I mean, as long as you don't put yourself in danger, I think you do need to stand up and to speak loud. And we should not let people to cross red lines, because when we do that, it just go more and more. If you know the theory of Overton's window, again, it's a theory, but still, I think it can show very well how it will work in that sense.
Why don't you share that? Yes, I do know the theory of broken windows, but why don't you share that?
Okay,
Or is it
so,
too So you want me to do it? It's like if you leave a broken window, it just attracts more and more broken windows. So you have to get it right then at the first window and not wait. Is that a good explanation?
That's for sure. Well, in political science, you have the theory of Overton that says, if you talk now very radical, tomorrow it will not be radical, because you take all the speech towards you. So then suddenly you are not such a radical, and you will have others that will be even more radical than you. And what yesterday was the central medium suddenly is not the center anymore, but something that was more radical became the center. So the thing is moving. And if well, today you see it more with the political correctness and different movements. You see it more in the States, in the United Kingdom. The thing that you could say yesterday, it was okay and not offensive. Today, if you would say it, that's it. You finish your career. So in the same way, I mean, you see it with other different leaders that they're so loud and, oh my God, how you said it. But after a while, that's fine. I mean, I got used to those words. So the same with anti-Semitism. If I will keep shut now, even the small things, tomorrow the small things will be the new reality. And you open, yeah. So how propaganda works, right? It's not right away that Hitler started to kill Jews. It started in a very different way. So this is why I really believe that we need to stand. And in order to stand correctly and to do it in an effective way, we need to know. We need to educate ourselves. We need to know history. We need to really understand and ask questions, not to be just, oh, what's popular or everybody talking about it. So probably it's true to take the time to open the book, to sit, to ask questions, not to be afraid, not to be popular. Okay, so in that sense, this is the most important thing. And if you see something, you need to do with it something. Otherwise, tomorrow, it will just, there is a Midrash Tanchuma. The sage says, I think it's in the portion of Vayikra. It says that when you do something good and something good comes to you, don't be happy. And if you did a mistake, don't be sad. And then it continues. If you did something good and something good came out of it, don't be happy that you did something good, but be happy because a good deed will bring another. And in the same way, when you do a mistake, don't be sad for the mistake you did. You already did it. Be sad because usually if you did one mistake, the first mistake will bring after it a chain of more mistakes. This is why you should be sad for the chain of mistakes that come. Because if you're aware for that, then you can stop it, you can change, you can fix it and go back to on track. So I really believe that you need to speak out loud, not to be afraid. It can be uncomfortable. Of course, you should not put yourself in physical danger, right? The Torah is telling us that everything that God gave us is to live by, not to be dead by. So, of course, if it's a danger of life and death, of course not. But to give a call to authorities, to tell to the police, to tell a person, it's not acceptable for you to talk like this when I'm here. I mean, those things we should do, and we should educate ourselves to understand really reality, what really happened during the war, before the war. So how we can say that it never again. Israel Cherny, I'm sorry, maybe it's the last thing, but Israel Cherny, a professor, a huge scholar, psychologist, he said, we should not think of the Nazis as monsters. They are human beings, because if they are monsters, oh, they're monsters. So people cannot act this way. Therefore, we open the door to that to happen again. But if I understand, no, they are people, and people did it, only then I can say, oh, no, so I need to stand up. I need to speak up. I need to stop it now because people did it. And it means that people can do it again.
That's a really, really important statement that you just said. Evelyn is the psychologist on our show. Do you want to repeat it?
What should I repeat, Phyllis?
It's a really interesting idea because, you know, we all watch those monster movies. If they're monsters, what can we do about them, right?
Right. There is a tendency, especially these days, to demonize the other, and in that way we cannot imagine ourselves to become like them. But we know from the present and from history, and we also know from psychology experiments at Harvard, for instance, in the 70s, that everybody is susceptible to obeying to bad orders and mean orders and even lethal orders under certain circumstances. So we're all susceptible to becoming the monsters that we think we never will become ourselves. And also everybody else. Look at Germany. Germany was the country with the highest developed culture at the time. So who would ever imagine that they would do what they did? And so you never know. And I agree with Rabbi Shimon that all we can do is stand up in a very early phase when it's still small. And that's also what my parents taught me, who have survived the Holocaust. They always taught me, nobody took Hitler serious. We didn't take him serious. And then suddenly it was too late. And we couldn't stop him anymore. We should have done that sooner.
That's what people ask what the name of my play is, Thin Edge of the Wedge, but it's a British expression that means it starts like this and then grows so wide that it becomes too late. So that's what we all need to realize. And as we wrap up, Rabbi Shimon, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. As a person who really believes in education, we should really not look for what's popular or, oh, I heard somebody or somebody very smart said something, but to try to find the facts for ourselves. Sometimes it's not comfortable. It takes time. It's time consuming, but it's worth it because then I really can stand on my own. And therefore, take the time and study and learn. And at the same time, if we want to add to this war, I mean, you have the regular projects of Holocaust and antisemitism, but if those who listen to the podcast, if you have the technology, the knowledge, the time, the means, projects like Eva Storage, if you know it, or what Max did in the Dallas museum, Holocaust Museum, the hologram that you can speak with him. And so I really believe that we should look how can we support those projects, because those projects will, I believe, will really give the effect to the next generation, even more than another textbook or another a tough movie of what happened. Because I saw those movies and I will continue to see them. I'm not sure that the next generation will take the time because it's a tough one. It's not comfortable. So educate ourselves, and can we really take this information, this knowledge, and make it available to the new generation with the Instagram project Eva stories. If it's through, I don't know, the same TikTok and Facebook and so on. Otherwise, we're in a big trouble.
Said very well. We have to find innovative ways to reach the younger generation. I 100% agree. Anyway, thank you so much, Rabbi Shimon, for coming to us from Latvia. And thank you to our listeners and anyone who hasn't seen Evelyn's documentary, Never Again Is Now. It's available to be seen on Amazon and YouTube. And you can get more information about my project, which has also been professionally translated into German, at thenedgeofthewedge.com. And everyone, whenever you can, without putting yourself in physical danger, speak up against anti-Semitism, and sooner rather than later. Thank you.